Hi, kids. Welcome back to the week after spring break. Now, when I saw you guys last, on Monday, we learned about the collapse of the Roman Empire. Now, this is sort of the starting point for my class specifically, but even more so for unit number 4. So, what your 6th grade teacher should have taught you all about is the Roman Empire and how amazing and great it was. Then I pick up where Rome falls apart. Now, like we talked about on Monday, this period of history is known as the early medieval period, also known as the Dark Ages. Now, after the collapse of the Roman Empire, Europe falls into major disorder. Now, this picture you see here is an example of what a typical medieval European town might actually look like. Now, how did we get to this point? How did things get so bad in Europe? Now, here is a nice little reminder of what the Roman Empire looked like. It was huge. It encompassed the entire Mediterranean Sea. It encompassed all of Spain, all of France, all of Italy, a significant portion of Germany, Greece, Turkey, the Middle East, North Africa. It even made its way all the way up into England. However, here's the problem. Once Rome fell apart, it turns into this. Now you can see, this is a major problem. You go from one single unified empire to all these tiny little groups of people who want to fight for control of their specific pieces of land. Now, after all of this goes down, within 100 years, things start looking pretty good. This dude comes along. This guy's name is Charlemagne. Now, technically speaking, his name is French, so technically speaking, his name would be pronounced Charlemagne. However, what this guy did, whether you want to call him Charlemagne or Charlemagne, he reunified a significant portion of Europe. Now, what Charlemagne was able to do is he reunited a significant piece of Western Europe. He titled this place the Frankish Empire. He retook control of France. He retook control of pieces of Germany. He retook control of parts of Italy, very importantly, containing the city of Rome. Now, Charlemagne was doing great. It looked as if he had come to Europe's rescue, and then he dies. Now, Charlemagne was an advocate of education. He wanted his people to be learned. He wanted them to learn how to read and write and speak clearly. Now, he was also an advocate of growing bigger and stronger. But here's the problem. When Charlemagne finally dies, he gives his territory to his 3 kids, and his 3 kids do this. They take their dad's territory, and within only 1 generation, we are back to this. Now, this map should look very, very, very familiar to you because on Monday, we were introduced to this. Now, as you can see, people start invading all of Europe. We got the Vikings in the north, we got the Muslims in the south, the Magyars in Central Europe, and those ever-present pesky Mongols over here in the east. Now, the thing, or the people group that we are going to focus on today are the people group called the Vikings. Now, we talked a little bit about them, and in the film that we're watching this week, you're going to see them a little bit more. But I wanted to go into a bit more depth. Now, the Vikings are from a place called Scandinavia. Now, Scandinavia includes 4 to 5, depending on who you ask, specific countries. Now, Iceland, that one's sort of on the fringes. Is that part of Scandinavia? Some people would say yes, some would say no. However, the 4 primary locations of Scandinavia: Norway, Sweden, Finland, and Denmark. Now, this is where the Vikings are from. However, oftentimes Vikings are portrayed as these sort of cute little guys in boats. Now, this actually might be a better representation of what Vikings actually look like. These were terrifying invaders that absolutely freaked out most of the population of Europe during the Middle Ages. Now, what I'm going to read for you is a direct primary source. This was written by somebody who actually saw the Vikings do what they were doing. Now, kiddos, listen very close, because I think you're going to see some stuff that is filled with blood, guts, death, violence, sadness, tears. So, Monk Simeon which means he works for a church, says, in the middle of June, the Vikings reached the church, and there they destroyed and violently robbed everything. They stomped the holy things under their dirty feet and stole all the treasures of the church. Some of the church members they killed with a sword. Some they carried off with them in chains. But most they stripped naked, insulted, and threw out the doors. And some they drowned in the sea. So when we're talking about Vikings, we're not talking about these kind people that came along into Europe and said, hey, can I have some land, please? These people butchered and slaughtered whoever was in their way. Now, what we are actually going to be doing today is I want to give you a little bit further of a deep dive into the Vikings. So I want to start by having you watch this short film. Enjoy.
The Vikings, an age of conquest. The Vikings were groups of warriors from Scandinavia who between the 8th and 11th centuries left their homes in order to raid and settle in Europe, Asia, and the North Atlantic during a period known as the Viking Age. The Vikings were master seafarers. The unique design of their long ships enabled them to use sails or oars, quickly change direction without turning around, sail up shallow rivers, perform beach landings, and carry the ship over portages. The Vikings formed fearsome raiding parties under leaders with fearsome names such as Sigurd Snake in the Eye, Sweyn Forkbeard, Ragnar Harrybreeks, and Harold Bluetooth. The Vikings were pagans, which made the unprotected monasteries in northern England and Scotland popular targets, and got Christian Europe quite upset. At a certain point, the Vikings ruled over most of England. They established settlements in Iceland, Greenland, Europe, and for a short time in North America, some 500 years before Columbus reached its shores. Vikings, who were known in East Europe as Rus, formed the basis for the Kingdom of Russia. In France, the Vikings, who were known as Northmen, established the Duchy of Normandy. Eventually, the Vikings assimilated into each of their destinations, and their relatives back home were Christianized. By the 12th century, the Viking Age was over. The Vikings lived on, however, in the European imagination, both as destructive barbarians and as romantic, noble savages.
All right, so there you have it. Now, what are you actually going to do with all of your new information about the Vikings? Now, it's simple. What you are going to do is you are going to write one single simile comparing the Vikings to something. Now, you probably learned about similes back when you were in elementary school, but just as a reminder, a simile is a comparison of two things using the words like or as. So calling someone or something as sweet as pie, or calling something that's very filled with color as colorful like crayons. So what your task is I want you to compare the Vikings to something. Now, the one rule here is you can't copy mine exactly. However, here is my sample for you. On page number 21 of your World History Notebook, you are going to title this Vikings Simile, and you are going to write one single simile. Vikings are, and then you compare them to something. So for mine, Vikings are as violent as chainsaws. Then, after you have written your simile, I want you to illustrate that simile. I want you to draw a little Viking as a chainsaw attacking the churches of Europe. Now, kiddos, I cannot wait to see what you have come up with. Now, when is this due? This is going to be due next Monday. So, anytime between now, Tuesday, and next week, Monday, you are required to do this. I will check this next week. I cannot wait to see what your creative little minds come up with. All right, good luck, kiddos.